The bathroom door was slightly open. That was the only reason Naomi heard the words that would destroy her world. I know, baby, I know. Just look at her now, she's huge. Like a whale that swallowed another whale. Trevor's laugh echoed through the hallway of their home, sharp and cruel. Her ankles are so swollen she can't even wear normal shoes anymore. And don't get me started on those stretch marks. It's like someone took a purple marker and just went crazy all over her stomach. Naomi stood frozen in the hallway, her hand pressed against her 7-month pregnant belly. Her heart hammered so hard she thought it might wake the baby inside her. When are you leaving her? A woman's voice came through the phone speaker. Bianca. The woman from Trevor's office. The woman Naomi had met twice at company parties, who had smiled at her while shaking her hand. So, I just need to figure out the financial stuff. But honestly, I can't stand looking at her anymore. She waddles around the house like some kind of duck. And she's always tired, always complaining. Bianca, you're so different. You're still sexy, still fun. You take care of yourself. I miss you, Bianca purred. When can you come over? I'll tell her I have to work late tomorrow. We can have the whole evening. Trevor's voice dropped lower, intimate. I'll bring that wine you like. Naomi's hands started shaking. The walls seemed to tilt around her. She had suspected something was wrong for months. Trevor had grown distant, cold. He stopped touching her belly to feel the baby kick. He worked late almost every night. But hearing him tear her apart with such casual cruelty, was different than suspecting. She walked into the bedroom where Trevor sat on the edge of their bed, phone pressed to his ear. When he saw her standing in the doorway, his face went pale. I have to go, he said quickly and ended the call. How long? Naomi's voice came out steady, which surprised her. Inside, she was breaking into 1,000 pieces. How long what? Trevor stood up, slipping his phone into his pocket. How long have you been with her? How long have you been saying these things about me? Trevor's jaw tightened. For a moment, she thought he might deny it. Instead, he shrugged. Does it matter? Does it matter? Naomi repeated. I'm carrying your child. We've been married for 4 years. And you're asking if it matters? Look, Naomi, this isn't working anymore. You changed. You're not the woman I married. I'm pregnant. Her voice rose despite her efforts to stay calm. I'm pregnant with your baby. My body is growing our child. And that's exactly the problem. Everything is about the baby now. You're not attractive anymore. You're not fun. You're just this tired, swollen version of who you used to be. He grabbed a duffel bag from the closet and started throwing clothes into it. Naomi watched him pack, her mind struggling to process what was happening. You're leaving? Right now. I think it's better this way. Clean break. Clean break. She laughed, but it sounded broken. Trevor, I'm 7 months pregnant. There's nothing clean about this. He zipped the bag and faced her. His eyes held no warmth, no regret. You'll be fine. You're tough. You always land on your feet. What about the baby? What about your daughter? Something flickered across his face, but it vanished quickly. Send me the hospital bills. I'll help with costs. But Naomi, I can't do this. I can't pretend anymore that I want this life. You mean you can't pretend you want me? The words tasted like ash in her mouth. Trevor walked past her toward the door. She grabbed his arm and he stopped. Please, she whispered. Please don't do this. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can work through this. He pulled his arm free. I don't want to fix this. I want out. The front door closed behind him with a soft click. Not a slam. Just a quiet, final sound that marked the end of everything Naomi had believed about her life. She stood in the empty bedroom for a long time. Her reflection stared back at her from the mirror across the room. Pregnant. Alone. Abandoned. The baby kicked hard against her ribs, as if reminding her she wasn't truly alone. Naomi placed both hands on her belly and felt her daughter moving inside her. Active. Strong. Alive. She walked to the bed and sat down carefully. Her phone sat on the nightstand. She could call her mother, but her mother had never approved of Trevor. She could call her sister, but her sister lived 3 states away with her own family. She could call her best friend, but admitting this out loud felt impossible. Instead, Naomi pulled out her laptop and opened her bank accounts. The joint account that she and Trevor shared had been nearly emptied. He had left her exactly $1,000. Their savings account, the one they had been building for the baby's future, was completely drained. Her hands trembled as she checked their credit cards. Maxed out. All of them. Trevor had been preparing for this moment, planning his escape while she innocently prepared a nursery and bought baby clothes. The reality crashed over her in waves. No husband. No money. No support system. 7 months pregnant with nowhere to turn. Naomi closed her laptop and lay back on the bed. The baby kicked again, a rolling movement across her entire belly. She watched the ripple under her skin, her daughter's tiny foot or hand pushing against the wall that separated them. "It's just us now," Naomi whispered to her unborn child. "But I promise you we're going to be okay. Somehow we're going to be more than okay." She didn't know how she would keep that promise. She had no plan, no resources, no safety net. But as she lay there in the home that no longer felt like hers, Naomi made a decision. She would not beg Trevor to come back. She would not chase him or try to win him over or compete with Bianca. She would do something harder. She would survive. She would build a life for her daughter. And she would make sure that Trevor's cruelty became the fuel for her transformation, not the cause of her destruction. The night stretched ahead of her, long and uncertain. But morning would come. And when it did, Naomi would start figuring out how to stand on her own two swollen feet and walk forward into whatever came next. The eviction notice arrived 3 weeks after Trevor left. Naomi stared at the paper in her hands, the words blurring as tears filled her eyes. She had 30 days to vacate the apartment they had rented together. Trevor's name was on the lease, but he had stopped paying his share. The landlord didn't care about her situation. Business was business. Naomi sat at the kitchen table, the notice in front of her, and forced herself to think practically. Panic wouldn't help. Crying wouldn't change anything. She needed a plan. Her phone buzzed. Another message from a number she didn't recognize. Over the past weeks, she had received dozens of messages from people in their social circle. Most were curiosity disguised as concern. "I heard about you and Trevor. Are you okay? Someone told me Trevor moved in with Bianca. Is that true? Girl, I always knew something was off about him." Naomi deleted the messages without responding. She had learned quickly that most people didn't actually want to help. They wanted gossip. They wanted the drama. They wanted to feel better about their own lives by watching hers fall apart. Her mother had offered to let her move back home, but the offer came with conditions. "I told you he wasn't right for you. I told you to wait to be sure. But you didn't listen." Her mother's disappointment was worse than having no help at all. Instead, Naomi found a tiny studio apartment in a neighborhood she would have never considered before. The building was old, the walls thin, the area rough around the edges. But it was cheap, and the landlord agreed to a month-to-month lease when she explained her situation. Moving day was brutal. Naomi packed boxes while 8 months pregnant, her back aching, her feet swelling. She had sold most of the furniture to get deposit money for the new place. Trevor had taken what he wanted and left her with the rest. She hired 2 college students to help move the heavy items. They were kind, careful with her boxes, and didn't ask questions about why a pregnant woman was moving alone. The studio apartment looked even smaller once her things were inside. The baby's crib barely fit in the corner. There was no separate bedroom, no proper kitchen, just a hot plate and a mini fridge. The bathroom had rust stains in the tub and a mirror that made everything look slightly warped. Naomi sat on the edge of her second-hand mattress and looked around her new home. This was rock bottom. This was what happened when your husband chose someone else and left you with nothing. Her phone rang. Trevor's number. She had ignored his calls for weeks, but something made her answer this time. "What do you want?" "I heard you moved." His voice sounded strange, not quite guilty but not indifferent either. "Yes. I got evicted from the apartment you stopped paying for." Silence on the other end. Then, "I'm sorry about that. Things have been tight." Tight. Naomi laughed bitterly. "Trevor, I'm living in a studio apartment that's smaller than our old bedroom. I sold our couch to pay for the deposit. Don't talk to me about things being tight. Look, I called because I wanted to know if you need anything. For the baby." "Now you care about the baby? That's not fair, Naomi. She's still my daughter." "No, what's not fair is you leaving me 7 months pregnant with no money and no support. What's not fair is you draining our savings account. What's not fair is you living with your mistress while I'm trying to figure out how to survive." She was shouting now, months of suppressed anger pouring out. "I didn't drain the account. I took half. It was my money too. It was our money. Money we saved together. Money that was supposed to be for our baby." Naomi realized she was standing, pacing the small space, her hand pressed against her aching lower back. "Fine. You want to play victim, go ahead. I called to see if you needed help, but clearly you just want to blame me for everything." "Help? You want to help? Then pay child support. Actually show up when your daughter is born. Be a father instead of a man who ran away because his wife gained weight." Trevor's voice turned cold. I'm with Bianca now. We're building a life together. I can't keep looking backward at what didn't work. We're not even divorced yet, Trevor. Our baby isn't even born yet. But sure, keep building your life while I figure out how to afford diapers. She hung up before he could respond and immediately regretted engaging at all. Talking to Trevor only made her angrier, only reminded her of what she had lost. Naomi spent the rest of the day unpacking boxes, organizing her small space, trying to make it feel like a home. The baby kicked constantly now, running out of room, ready to enter the world. Every kick reminded Naomi that she was running out of time to get stable. She had applied for government assistance, swallowing her pride to fill out the forms. She qualified for food stamps and Medicaid, which would cover the birth. It wasn't much, but it was something. Her old job had let her go 3 months into her pregnancy when she needed too many doctor's appointments. They claimed it was budget cuts, but Naomi knew the truth. Pregnant women were seen as liabilities, not employees. Finding new work while heavily pregnant was impossible. No one would hire someone who would need maternity leave in weeks. So Naomi survived on her savings, watching the number in her bank account drop lower each day. At night, she lay on her second-hand mattress and stared at the water-stained ceiling. Fear kept her awake. What if something went wrong during birth? What if the baby was sick? What if she couldn't afford formula or diapers or clothes? But beneath the fear, something else was growing. Something harder and more resilient. Anger. Determination. Stubbornness. Trevor thought she would break. He thought abandoning her would destroy her. He expected her to come crawling back, begging him to return, willing to accept any scraps of attention he might throw her way. Naomi decided right then, lying in that small apartment with her daughter kicking against her ribs, that she would prove him wrong. She didn't know how yet. She had no clear path forward. But she knew with absolute certainty that she would not let this be the end of her story. She would survive this. She would raise her daughter. And somehow, someway she would build something from the wreckage Trevor had left behind. The next morning, Naomi woke early. Her body ached, her back hurt, her feet were swollen. But she got up anyway. She made instant coffee on her hot plate and sat at her small table with her laptop. If no one would hire her, she would hire herself. She started researching online businesses, freelance opportunities, ways to make money from home with a newborn. The internet was full of possibilities for those desperate enough to pursue them. Naomi spent hours reading articles, watching videos, learning about digital marketing and social media management. She discovered that small businesses were always looking for help with online presence but couldn't afford big agencies. By the end of the week, she had created profiles on 3 freelance websites, offering basic social media management services. Her prices were low, her experience minimal, but she wrote compelling descriptions about being hungry, dedicated, and willing to learn. 3 days later, she got her first client. A small bakery that needed help with their Facebook page. They would pay her $200 a month to post content and respond to messages. It wasn't much. It wouldn't solve her problems. But it was a start. It was proof that she could do something, create something, earn something on her own. Naomi accepted the job and immediately started working, learning everything she could about social media strategy. The baby kicked and rolled inside her while she typed, creating posts, designing simple graphics with free software, engaging with the bakery's customers. 2 weeks later, she got a second client. Then a third. The money was small, but it was growing. More importantly, Naomi was growing. She was learning skills, building a portfolio, creating something that belonged entirely to her. Trevor called once more before the baby was born. I heard you're doing some kind of online work. How did you hear that? Bianca saw your profile on one of those freelance sites. She thought it was funny, you trying to be some kind of businesswoman. Naomi felt her jaw tighten. Tell Bianca I'm glad I could entertain her. Look, I'm just saying, don't get your hopes up. Those things never work out. You should probably apply for regular jobs once the baby is here. I'll figure it out, Trevor. Without your advice. Fine. Just don't come asking me for money when your little hobby doesn't pay the bills. Naomi hung up and placed her hand on her belly. Her daughter was quiet now, probably sleeping. He's wrong, she whispered. We're going to make this work. We're going to prove all of them wrong. She had no idea if that was true, but she was going to fight like it was. Labor started at 2 in the morning, exactly 2 weeks before Naomi's due date. The pain woke her from a restless sleep, sharp and insistent, radiating from her lower back around to her belly. For a moment, she lay in the darkness of her studio apartment, trying to breathe through the contraction. Then panic hit. She was alone. Completely alone. No husband to drive her to the hospital. No family nearby to hold her hand. Naomi grabbed her phone and called for a ride, her fingers shaking as she typed in the hospital address. She had packed her bag weeks ago, paranoid about this exact scenario. Now she grabbed it with trembling hands and made her way down the 3 flights of stairs, pausing every few steps as contractions gripped her body. The driver was a middle-aged woman who took one look at Naomi and immediately understood. First baby? Yes. Naomi breathed through another contraction. You got someone meeting you at the hospital? No, just me. The driver's eyes met hers in the rearview mirror, full of sympathy that made Naomi want to cry. You're going to be okay, honey. Women have been doing this forever. You're stronger than you think. At the hospital, nurses admitted her quickly. They asked for emergency contacts, for the father's information, for insurance details. Naomi gave them what she had and left Trevor's information blank. Is someone coming to be with you? A young nurse asked as she hooked Naomi up to monitors. No, it's just me. The nurse squeezed her hand. Then I'll check on you as much as I can. You're not alone, okay? Labor was harder than anything Naomi had imagined. The pain was relentless, crushing, overwhelming. She breathed through contractions, gripped the hospital bed rails, and tried to remember why she was doing this. Hours blurred together. Day turned to evening. The pain intensified until Naomi was sure she couldn't endure another moment. You're doing great, the doctor said, checking her progress. Just a little longer. But longer felt impossible. Naomi's body shook with exhaustion. Sweat soaked her hospital gown. She had never felt so alone, so small, so terrified. I can't, she gasped between contractions. I can't do this. Yes, you can. The nurse who had promised to check on her was there, holding her hand. You're almost there. Your baby is almost here. I'm scared. I know. But fear doesn't change what needs to happen. Your baby needs you to be strong right now. Can you do that? Naomi thought about Trevor, comfortable somewhere with Bianca, completely removed from this moment. She thought about all the people who expected her to fail, to crumble, to prove she couldn't handle single motherhood. Yes, she whispered. I can do this. And she did. At 11:47 p.m., after 19 hours of labor, Naomi gave birth to a baby girl. 7 pounds, 3 ounces, 20 inches long. Perfect in every way. They placed the baby on Naomi's chest and the world stopped. Everything that had happened over the past months, all the pain and fear and struggle, faded into background noise. All that mattered was this tiny human with her eyes squeezed shut and her small fists waving in the air. Hi, Zara, Naomi whispered, the name she had chosen months ago. I'm your mom. Zara made a small sound, not quite a cry, just a noise that said she was here, she was real, she had arrived. Naomi traced her finger along Zara's tiny hand, and the baby's fingers closed around hers with surprising strength. In that moment, Naomi felt something shift inside her. The broken pieces of herself that Trevor had left behind started to rearrange into something new. She wasn't the woman Trevor had married. She wasn't the woman he had abandoned. She was a mother now, and that was a power she had never understood until this moment. The nurses taught her how to breastfeed, how to change diapers, how to swaddle. They were patient and kind, never mentioning the absence of a partner or family. When Naomi struggled to latch Zara for feeding, a nurse sat with her for 30 minutes, gently guiding her through the process. You're doing great, the nurse said. First-time moms always worry they're doing everything wrong. But look at her. She knows you're her mother. That's all she needs. On the second day, Naomi's phone rang. Trevor. She debated not answering, but something made her pick up. Did you have the baby? No greeting, no asking how she was. Yes, yesterday. A girl. How much did she weigh? Naomi told him the details, her voice flat and emotionless. When can I see her? I don't know, Trevor. When do you want to see her? Don't be like that. I'm trying to be involved. You're trying to be involved now. You weren't trying when I was alone in labor for 19 hours. You weren't trying when I was moving into a studio apartment 8 months pregnant. Fine. I get it. I'm the bad guy. Can I see my daughter or not? Naomi looked down at Zara sleeping in the bassinet next to her bed. So small. So innocent. So unaware of the complicated mess she had been born into. You can see her. But Trevor, if you're going to be in her life, you have to actually be in her life. No showing up when it's convenient and disappearing when it's hard. She deserves better than that. I understand. Text me when you're home. I'll come by. He hung up without asking how she was, without acknowledging what she had just been through, without saying anything about the daughter he had supposedly wanted to see. Naomi put the phone down and picked up Zara, holding her close. He's not going to show up, she whispered to her sleeping daughter. And that's okay, because I'm going to be enough for both of us. The hospital discharged them the next day. Naomi took another ride back to her studio apartment, Zara strapped into a car seat that a hospital charity program had provided. Everything felt surreal. She was bringing home a human being. A person who depended entirely on her for survival. The studio apartment looked even smaller with baby gear scattered around. But Naomi set up the bassinet next to her bed and arranged supplies on the small table. Diapers, wipes, bottles, formula for backup even though she was breastfeeding. That first night alone with Zara was terrifying. The baby woke every 2 hours, crying to be fed. Naomi stumbled through the darkness, exhausted and sore from birth, trying to figure out what her daughter needed. Was she hungry? What? Cold. Thick. By the third feeding, around 4 in the morning, Naomi sat in the only chair in her apartment and cried while Zara nursed. She was so tired. Her body hurt. She had no idea what she was doing. And she was completely, utterly alone. But as the sun started to rise, filtering weak light through the thin curtains, something settled in Naomi's chest. She was tired, yes. Overwhelmed, yes. But she was doing it. She was keeping this tiny human alive. She was functioning on no sleep, healing from childbirth, and somehow managing. Zara finished feeding and looked up at her with unfocused eyes. Naomi stared back at her daughter and felt a fierce love so powerful it almost scared her. We're going to be okay, she told Zara. I don't know how yet, but I promise you we're going to build a good life. A better life than I ever had planned. Trevor never came to meet his daughter. He texted 3 days later saying work was busy and asking for pictures instead. Naomi sent one photo and then blocked his number. She didn't need his empty promises. She didn't need his occasional interest. She needed to focus all her energy on survival, on building something stable for Zara. The freelance work became harder with a newborn. Naomi worked during Zara's naps, during late-night feedings, any moment she could steal. She typed one-handed while breastfeeding. She returned client emails at 3 in the morning. She was exhausted every single day. But the client list grew. Word spread that she was reliable, creative, and cheap. Small businesses hired her to manage their social media, to create content, to engage with customers. The money was still modest, but it was steady. Naomi opened a separate savings account and named it Zara's Future. Every extra dollar went into that account. $5 here. $10 there. It added up slowly, but it added up. At her 6-week postpartum checkup, the doctor asked if she had support at home. No, it's just me and my daughter. The doctor studied her for a moment. How are you managing? I'm managing. That's not what I asked. How are you really doing? Naomi felt tears prick her eyes but forced them back. I'm tired. I'm scared. I have no idea what I'm doing. But I'm doing it anyway. The doctor nodded. That's called being a mother. You're doing better than you think. Those words carried Naomi through the hardest early months. When Zara cried for hours with colic and nothing helped. When Naomi's milk supply dropped from stress and exhaustion. When the money ran dangerously low and she had to choose between buying diapers and paying the electric bill. She kept going. She kept working. She kept fighting. And slowly, day by day, she and Zara found their rhythm. Naomi learned her daughter's cries, her patterns, her needs. Zara started sleeping longer stretches. Naomi's body healed. The fog of exhaustion started to lift. 3 months after giving birth, Naomi looked at herself in the warped bathroom mirror. She had lost most of the pregnancy weight through breastfeeding and stress. Her stretch marks had faded from purple to silver. Her body was different now, marked by pregnancy and birth, but it was also stronger. She had survived Trevor leaving. She had survived being alone. She had survived childbirth and newborn care with no support. She was still standing. Naomi picked up Zara from her bassinet and held her close. You know what, baby girl? Your dad thought I would break. He thought abandoning me would destroy me. But he was wrong. We're not just surviving. We're going to thrive. I don't know how long it will take, but I promise you we're going somewhere. And when we get there, no one will ever be able to knock us down again. Zara made a gurgling sound and grabbed a fistful of Naomi's hair. Naomi laughed, the sound surprising her. It had been months since she had laughed genuinely. The road ahead was still long and uncertain. But for the first time since Trevor had walked out, Naomi felt something other than fear and despair. She felt determination. She felt purpose. She felt the beginning of hope. 2 years after Zara's birth, Naomi was running on 4 hours of sleep and 3 cups of coffee. She had just put Zara down for a nap and now sat at her small table, laptop open, working on a social media campaign for her seventh client. The studio apartment was still small, still cramped, but it looked different now. There were toys in organized bins. Children's books stacked on a small shelf. Pictures of Zara on every available surface, charting her growth from tiny newborn to active toddler. Naomi had changed too. Her hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail. She wore clothes that were cheap but clean, functional but presentable for video calls. The exhaustion was still there, etched into the lines around her eyes, but there was something else too. A sharpness, a focus, a determination that hadn't existed before Trevor left. Her freelance business had grown beyond social media management. She now offered content creation, email marketing, and basic website design. She had taught herself everything through free online courses, watching tutorials late at night while Zara slept, reading articles during breakfast while her daughter played. The money still wasn't great, but it was better. Enough to keep them fed, housed, and safe. Enough to put a little bit away each month into Zara's future fund. But Naomi wanted more. She was tired of scraping by, tired of worrying about every unexpected expense, tired of living in a space barely big enough for one person, much less a growing child. She had enrolled in online courses to finish her business degree, the one she had abandoned years ago when she married Trevor. Every night after Zara went to bed, Naomi studied. Marketing strategies, business management, financial planning. She took notes until her hand cramped, memorized concepts until her eyes blurred, and pushed through exhaustion because stopping wasn't an option. During the day, she worked multiple jobs. In addition to her freelance clients, she did data entry for a company that allowed remote work. She took online surveys for extra cash. She sold things she didn't need on resale sites. Every dollar mattered. Zara was talking now, her vocabulary expanding daily. "Mama work," she would say, pointing to Naomi's laptop. Or "Mama busy." She was a happy child despite their circumstances, adaptable and resilient in ways that broke Naomi's heart. No child should have to be that understanding. Naomi made sure to carve out time every day just for Zara. They would go to the free park down the street and play on the swings. They would read books together, Zara sitting in Naomi's lap, pointing at pictures. They would sing songs and dance around the tiny apartment, Zara giggling with pure joy. Those moments reminded Naomi why she was working so hard. Not for revenge. Not to prove anything to Trevor. But to give Zara the life she deserved. Trevor had visited Zara exactly 3 times in 2 years. Each visit was awkward and brief. He would show up, hold his daughter uncomfortably for a few minutes, take some pictures for his social media, and then leave. Naomi could tell he had no real interest in being a father. Zara was a prop to him, proof he wasn't a complete deadbeat, but not an actual person he wanted to know. The child support payments were irregular and minimal. Naomi had taken him to court, but Trevor claimed financial hardship. The judge ordered him to pay $300 a month. He usually paid half that, and only after Naomi sent multiple reminders. But Naomi stopped counting on his money. She built her budget assuming she would get nothing from him. Anything he did pay went straight into savings. Bianca had gotten pregnant about a year after Zara was born. Naomi heard about it through mutual acquaintances who still felt the need to update her on Trevor's life. She felt nothing when she heard the news. No jealousy. No anger. Just a brief moment of pity for the child who would have Trevor as a father. What did bother her was when those same acquaintances would ask, "Doesn't it hurt? Seeing him build a family with her while you're struggling alone?" Naomi learned to smile and say, "I'm not struggling. I'm building something too. It just looks different." And it was true. Every small win felt monumental. When she landed a client who paid double her usual rate. When she finished a particularly difficult class with an A. When Zara learned to use the potty and they could stop buying diapers. These victories belonged entirely to Naomi. She had earned them without Trevor's help or approval. One evening, after putting Zara to bed, Naomi sat down with her laptop and looked at her business finances. In 2 years, she had saved nearly $5,000. It wasn't much by most standards, but for her, it was a fortune. It represented countless late nights, sacrificed sleep, and relentless hustle. She had been thinking about something for months but had been too scared to actually do it. Now, looking at that number, she decided it was time. Naomi registered her freelance work as an actual business. She created an LLC, designed a simple website, and gave herself a professional email address. Instead of being a freelancer taking whatever work came her way, she was now the owner of a marketing consultancy. The name had taken her weeks to decide on. She finally settled on Phoenix Marketing Solutions. She liked the symbolism. Rising from ashes, starting fresh, becoming something new and powerful. Her first move as a real business owner was to raise her rates. She had been undercharging for years out of fear and desperation. Now she researched what other consultants charged and set her prices to match, even though it terrified her. She expected to lose clients. Instead, something unexpected happened. The higher prices made her look more professional. New clients who wouldn't have considered her before suddenly took her seriously. Business owners who wanted quality rather than cheap work started reaching out. Within 3 months, her income had doubled. It still wasn't enough to be comfortable, but it was enough to breathe a little easier. Enough to buy Zara new shoes when she needed them instead of waiting for a sale. Enough to occasionally order takeout instead of cooking every meal. Naomi hired a babysitter for a few hours twice a week so she could focus on work without interruption. The expense felt enormous, but the productivity boost was worth it. She could take client calls without Zara crying in the background. She could concentrate on complex projects without constantly being interrupted. The business degree classes continued. Naomi was on track to graduate in another year if she kept her current pace. Some nights she wanted to quit, to just accept her current situation and stop pushing so hard. But then she would look at Zara sleeping in her crib, or think about what kind of example she was setting, and she would force herself to keep going. She started attending virtual networking events, connecting with other business owners, learning from people who had built successful companies. Most of them had resources she didn't have, support systems and safety nets and financial backing. But some of them had started with nothing too. Those were the people Naomi studied most carefully, trying to understand how they had climbed out of poverty and into stability. One woman in particular, a business coach who offered a free consultation, told Naomi something that stuck with her. "You're thinking too small," the coach said. "You're so focused on survival that you can't see the potential for actual growth. You need to decide if you want to just get by or if you want to actually build something significant." "I want to build something," Naomi said immediately. "But I have responsibilities. I can't take big risks." "Who said anything about big risks? I'm talking about strategic moves. Investing in yourself, your business, thinking beyond next month's bills to where you want to be in 5 years." That conversation shifted something in Naomi's mindset. She had been so focused on day-to-day survival that she hadn't let herself dream bigger. What if she could grow her business beyond just her working alone? What if she could hire people, take on bigger clients, actually build something sustainable? She started planning. Real planning, not just hoping things would get better. She wrote down goals. 5 clients who each paid over $1,000 a month. A team of freelancers she could delegate work to. Moving to a 2-bedroom apartment so Zara could have her own room. The goals felt impossible, but Naomi wrote them down anyway. Then she started breaking them down into smaller steps. If she needed 5 high-paying clients, what did she need to do to attract them? Better website. Case studies showing results. Testimonials. Professional presence on LinkedIn. She tackled each item methodically. Spending money on a web designer felt terrifying, but the new website looked professional enough to compete with bigger agencies. She asked her current clients for testimonials and was surprised when they gave glowing reviews. She created detailed case studies showing how her work had increased sales and engagement for small businesses. Slowly, Phoenix Marketing Solutions started to look like a real company instead of just one tired woman working from a studio apartment. Zara turned 3. Naomi threw her a small birthday party at the park, inviting a few kids from the free playgroup they attended. She bought a cake from the grocery store and decorated with dollar store supplies. It wasn't fancy, but Zara was delighted, especially when she got to blow out the candles. One of the other mothers at the party pulled Naomi aside. "You're doing an amazing job with her. She's such a happy, well-adjusted kid." "Thank you," Naomi said, feeling emotional. "I'm trying. It shows. And can I say, I follow your business online. What you're building is really impressive. My husband's company might need marketing help soon. Can I connect you too?" That introduction led to Naomi's first corporate client. A small manufacturing company that needed help with their online presence. The contract was for 6 months at $3,000 per month. When Naomi saw the signed agreement, she sat down and cried. Not sad tears. Not stressed tears. Tears of relief and hope and the beginning of belief that maybe she could actually do this. She called her sister that night, something she rarely did. "I got a big client," Naomi said. "Like really big. For me anyway." Her sister screamed with excitement. "That's incredible. I knew you could do it. I've been watching your business grow online and I'm so proud of you." "I'm scared," Naomi admitted. "What if I mess it up? What if they realize I'm just making this up as I go? Naomi, everyone is making it up as they go. The difference is you're actually doing it. You're not just talking about someday starting a business. You did it while raising a child alone, while recovering from your husband abandoning you. You're not a fraud. You're a fighter. After they hung up, Naomi sat in the quiet apartment and let herself feel proud. For the first time since Trevor left, she felt like she was moving towards something instead of just running away from the past. The climb was still steep. She still had far to go. But she was climbing one exhausting step at a time, and the view was starting to change. 5 years after Trevor walked out, Naomi barely recognized her own life. She stood in the small office space she had just rented, looking at the empty room that would soon house her growing business. It wasn't fancy. Just 2 rooms in a shared office building with fluorescent lights and industrial carpet. But it was hers. Phoenix Marketing Solutions now had 8 regular clients and 3 people working part-time as contractors. Naomi had learned to delegate, something that terrified her at first. Letting go of control meant trusting others, and trust was something Trevor had broken in her. But it turned out she was good at hiring people. She looked for hustlers like herself. People who needed a chance, who were hungry to prove themselves. She hired a single mom who did graphic design, a college student who was brilliant at content writing, a retired teacher who had a gift for customer engagement. She paid them fairly, respected their time, and gave them opportunities to grow. In return, they were loyal and hardworking. They helped her take on bigger projects, serve more clients, and deliver better results. Zara was in kindergarten now, attending a decent public school in a better neighborhood. They had moved out of the studio apartment 2 years ago into a 2-bedroom apartment. Nothing luxurious, but Zara had her own room with a real bed and space for her toys. The walls were painted a cheerful yellow, and Naomi had hung up Zara's artwork everywhere. Financially, they were stable for the first time since Trevor left. Naomi could pay bills without panic. She had money in savings. She could take Zara to the zoo or the children's museum without worrying about the entrance fee. These small things felt like massive victories. The business degree was finished. Naomi had graduated with honors, attending the ceremony with Zara by her side. Her daughter had been so proud, telling everyone, "My mama graduated," that Naomi had cried through the whole ceremony. The degree opened doors. Clients took her more seriously. She could charge higher rates. She understood business strategy and financial planning in ways she hadn't before. Every class she had struggled through at 3 in the morning while Zara slept had been worth it. But success brought new challenges. As Phoenix Marketing Solutions grew, so did the responsibilities. Naomi was no longer just executing work. She was managing people, negotiating contracts, handling finances, making strategic decisions. She was running a real business. Some days the pressure felt crushing. When a client was unhappy with results. When cash flow got tight between payments. When one of her contractors couldn't meet a deadline and Naomi had to jump in and finish the work herself. She would lie awake at night, anxiety churning in her stomach, wondering if she was capable of sustaining this growth. But then she would remember where she started. Alone and pregnant in a studio apartment with almost nothing. Compared to that, these problems were manageable. They were the problems of someone moving forward, not someone barely surviving. Naomi had stopped thinking about Trevor most days. He was like a bad dream that had faded with time. She knew he was still with Bianca, that they had 2 kids now. She knew from Zara's rare visits with him that his life looked perfect on the surface. Nice house. Nice car. All the things he had wanted when he left Naomi. But Naomi also knew from things Zara innocently mentioned that Trevor and Bianca fought constantly. That money was tight. That Trevor changed jobs frequently. She took no pleasure in his struggles, but she didn't feel sorry for him either. He had made his choices. Zara saw her father maybe once every 2 months. The visits were Trevor's idea, usually prompted by guilt or Bianca pushing him to be involved. Zara would come home confused, not really understanding who Trevor was or why he was supposedly important. "Why doesn't Daddy live with us?" she asked one night while Naomi tucked her in. "Because Daddy and I aren't together anymore. But that's okay. Lots of families look different. What matters is that you're loved. Do you love me? More than anything in the whole world. Does Daddy love me?" Naomi chose her words carefully. "Daddy loves you in his own way. But sweetie, some people aren't good at showing love. That doesn't mean anything is wrong with you. You are perfect and wonderful and deserve all the love in the world." Zara seemed satisfied with that answer, but Naomi's heart ached. Her daughter deserved a father who showed up, who was present, who made her feel valued. Instead, she got Trevor's half-hearted attempts and frequent cancellations. Naomi had learned to be both mother and father. She went to every school event, every parent-teacher conference, every birthday party. She taught Zara to ride a bike, helped with homework, kissed scraped knees, and dried tears. She was enough. She had to be. The new office space became official in March. Naomi bought second-hand furniture and set up 2 desks, a meeting table, and a small waiting area. She hung up her business license and the client testimonials she was most proud of. She added plants to make the space feel less sterile. On opening day, she brought Zara to see it. Her daughter ran around the empty rooms, her footsteps echoing. "This is where Mama works now?" Zara asked. "Yes. What do you think?" "It's big. Bigger than our old apartment." Naomi laughed. "It is, isn't it? Mama's business is growing, which means we can keep growing too." "Are we rich now?" "No, baby. We're not rich. But we're doing okay. We're stable. And we're going to keep building." "I'm proud of you, Mama." Those words from her 5-year-old daughter made Naomi tear up. "I'm proud of us, sweet girl. We're a team." The business continued growing throughout that year. Naomi landed a contract with a regional restaurant chain to manage social media for all their locations. It was her biggest client yet, worth $15,000 over 6 months. She celebrated by taking Zara to a nice restaurant, something they rarely did. "Can I order anything?" Zara asked, eyes wide at the menu. "Anything you want." Zara ordered chicken tenders and fries, the same thing she always got. But the joy on her face at being able to choose freely, without Naomi calculating costs in her head, was priceless. Naomi allowed herself to order something beyond the cheapest option. A pasta dish that sounded good. A glass of wine. It felt decadent and strange and wonderful. "Are we celebrating?" Zara asked. "Yes. Mama got a really big client today. It's going to help us a lot." "I knew you could do it. You're the best, Mama." Naomi reached across the table and squeezed her daughter's hand. Everything she had been through, every struggle and setback and moment of despair, had led to this. Sitting in a decent restaurant with her healthy, happy daughter, celebrating actual success. Trevor's name came up in conversation only when necessary. Child support was now deducted automatically from his paycheck after Naomi had gone back to court. $400 a month. It was something, though still minimal compared to what raising a child actually cost. He had protested the increase, claiming he couldn't afford it with 2 other kids. Naomi had sat in that courtroom, looking at the man who had once been her husband, and felt nothing but indifference. "Your Honor," she had said when asked to speak, "I'm not trying to punish him. I'm trying to get basic support for our daughter. He chose to have more children. That doesn't mean he gets to ignore his first one." The judge had agreed and set the new amount. Trevor had glared at her on the way out of the courthouse. "You're really going to take food out of my other kids' mouths?" he hissed. Naomi had looked at him steadily. "I'm making sure your first child has what she needs. You should have thought about finances before abandoning your pregnant wife." It was the last time they spoke directly. Everything after that went through the court system or brief text messages about pickup times. By the time Zara was 6, Naomi had 12 employees, a bigger office space, and annual revenue crossing 6 figures. She wasn't wealthy, but she was undeniably successful. Phoenix Marketing Solutions had a reputation for delivering results, for being reliable, for understanding small and medium businesses. Naomi started getting invited to speak at local business events. At first, she declined, terrified of public speaking. But her business coach pushed her to say yes. "You have a story people need to hear. Single mom, started with nothing, built a successful company. That's powerful. Share it." So Naomi said yes to a small Chamber of Commerce event. Standing in front of 50 people, she told her story. Not all of it. She left out the most painful details about Trevor. But she talked about starting her business while caring for a newborn. About learning everything from free online resources. About making every dollar stretch. About refusing to give up when things got hard. The response was overwhelming. People approached her afterward wanting advice, wanting to connect, wanting to learn from her. She got 3 client inquiries from that one talk. More speaking opportunities followed. Naomi got better at it, more comfortable sharing her journey. She became known as the marketing consultant who had built her business from nothing, who understood bootstrapping and hustle, who didn't come from privilege or connections. That reputation attracted a specific type of client. Other entrepreneurs who were grinding, who were building with limited resources, who valued results over fancy presentations. Naomi understood them because she was them. She knew what it felt like to invest money you couldn't afford to lose. She knew the fear of trying something new with no safety net. Zara was proud of her mom in ways that made Naomi emotional. She would tell her teachers, her friends, anyone who would listen about her mama's business. She drew pictures of Naomi at a computer helping people. She wrote school assignments about my mama who never gives up. But Naomi also made sure not to let work consume everything. She had learned that lesson the hard way in the early years when she worked every possible moment and burned out hard. Now she had boundaries. She was home for dinner with Zara every night. Weekends were for family time, not clients. She took vacations even if they were just camping trips or road trips to nearby cities. Balance was hard, but Naomi had learned that burning out helped no one. She needed to be healthy, rested, and present for Zara. The business would survive. Her relationship with her daughter wouldn't survive if she was always distracted and exhausted. On Zara's 6th birthday, they moved again. This time to a small house with a yard. Nothing fancy, but it was theirs. A place where Zara could play outside. Where they had space to spread out. Where Naomi had a proper home office instead of working from the kitchen table. I am, Zara said simply. She's the best. Financially, Naomi was comfortable in ways she had never imagined possible. She had investments, retirement savings, a college fund for Zara that was well funded. She owned the house they lived in, having paid off the mortgage early. She could afford nice vacations, quality food, good health care. She donated to causes she cared about. But she didn't live lavishly. The years of scarcity had taught her to value security over display. She drove a reliable car but not a luxury vehicle. She dressed well but didn't need designer labels. She invested in experiences with Zara rather than accumulating possessions. What she did spend money on was education and opportunity. She hired executive coaches to help her be a better leader. She attended business retreats to network and learn from others. She invested in her team's professional development. These investments had paid off exponentially in business growth and personal fulfillment. Naomi had also started a scholarship program through her company. Every year, Phoenix Marketing Solutions gave $5,000 each to 3 single mothers pursuing business degrees. It was a small thing in the grand scheme, but it represented what she wished someone had done for her in those early days. Dating had been non-existent for years. Naomi had been too focused on survival, then too focused on building the business, then too protective of the stable life she had created for Zara. But recently she had started to think about it. Not desperately, not out of loneliness, but from a place of wholeness. She was complete on her own. A partner would be nice but not necessary. She had gone on a few dates over the past year. Nothing serious. Nothing that interfered with her priorities. She was selective about who she let into her life and very selective about who she let meet Zara. Trust was still hard. Believing someone wouldn't leave when things got difficult was still hard. But she was trying. Opening herself to the possibility of love again, even if cautiously. She deserved that. After everything she had overcome, she deserved to be happy in all aspects of her life. The business continued growing. Naomi was exploring expansion into new markets, potentially opening a second office location. She had been approached about selling the company more than once, but she always declined. Phoenix Marketing Solutions was hers. She had built it from nothing. Selling felt like betraying everything she had fought for. Besides, she loved what she did. Helping businesses grow. Creating jobs. Mentoring her team. Proving that you could build something ethical and successful simultaneously. These things gave her purpose beyond money. Zara wanted to be a business owner too when she grew up. Like you, Mama, she said. I want to help people and make money doing it. Naomi's heart swelled when she heard that. Not because she needed her daughter to follow in her footsteps, but because Zara had learned that women could be powerful, that mothers could be successful, that struggle could transform into strength. At the company's 8th anniversary party, Naomi gave a speech to her team. She thanked them for their dedication, celebrated their collective success, and shared her vision for the future. Then she got personal. Some of you know my story, how this company started. But I don't talk about it much because I don't want to be defined by my worst moment. I want to be defined by what I built from it. She paused, looking around at the faces of people who had become like family. 8 years ago, I had nothing. I was alone, broke, and terrified. I started this company out of desperation, not ambition. But somewhere along the way, desperation turned into determination. And determination turned into success. Not just financial success, though that's nice. Success in creating something meaningful. Something that provides for families. Something that makes a difference. She raised her glass. Here's to 8 more years. And to every single person who believed in this vision and helped make it real. Thank you. The team cheered. Zara, sitting at a table with some of the employees' kids, clapped the loudest. Later that night, after everyone had left and Naomi was closing up the office, she stood at the window looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Trevor was living his life. Somewhere out there, Bianca was probably dealing with his moods and inconsistencies. Somewhere out there, other single mothers were struggling like Naomi had once struggled. She thought about that woman who had been abandoned while pregnant, crying on a mattress in a studio apartment, wondering how she would survive. If Naomi could go back and tell her that in 8 years she would own a multi-million-dollar company, would she have believed it? Probably not. The gap between that despair and this success seemed impossible to cross. But she had crossed it, one exhausting step at a time. One small win building on another. One day of refusing to quit leading to another day of pushing forward. Naomi had learned that transformation wasn't one dramatic moment. It was 1,000 small decisions. To keep going. To learn something new. To take a risk. To believe in herself when no one else did. To refuse to let Trevor's abandonment define her worth. She had become someone she was proud of. Not perfect. Still scared sometimes. Still carrying scars from those early years. But strong. Capable. Successful on her own terms. And best of all, she had given Zara a childhood full of stability, love, and possibility. Her daughter would never wonder if she was valued. She would never question if her mother would be there. She would grow up knowing that women could be powerful and that struggle could be survived. That was Naomi's real success. Not the money or the recognition or the thriving business. The real success was the confident, happy girl who called her mama and believed she could do anything. Trevor hadn't destroyed her. He had inadvertently created the conditions for her transformation. And for that, Naomi felt nothing but indifference toward him. He was irrelevant to her story now. Just a footnote. A character who appeared briefly and then faded away. The empire Naomi had built belonged entirely to her. And she was nowhere near done building. The email invitation had arrived 3 weeks ago. Naomi almost deleted it thinking it was spam. But something made her read it carefully. You've been selected as a keynote speaker for the Regional Business Summit. We would be honored to have you share your expertise in digital marketing and entrepreneurship with our attendees. The summit was one of the largest business conferences in the region, drawing hundreds of entrepreneurs, executives, and investors. Being asked to keynote was a significant honor. Naomi had immediately accepted. Now she stood backstage at the convention center, smoothing down her navy blazer and trying to calm her nerves. She had spoken in front of large audiences before, but this was different. This was the biggest stage yet. She was scheduled to speak right after lunch to a crowd of over 300 people. You're going to be amazing, her operations manager, Tasha, said, giving her an encouraging smile. Tasha had insisted on coming to provide moral support. I just need to remember to breathe, Naomi said, reviewing her notes one final time. You know this material inside and out. Just be yourself. That's what people connect with. She had earned her place on this stage. She belonged here. The introduction began. Someone from the conference was listing her achievements, talking about Phoenix Marketing Solutions growth, describing her journey from single mother to successful CEO. Naomi listened to her own story being told and felt a surge of pride. She had done this. Against all odds, she had built something remarkable. Please welcome Naomi Patterson. Applause filled the auditorium as Naomi walked onto the stage. The lights were bright, the crowd a sea of faces. She found her center, smiled, and began her presentation. She talked about digital marketing strategy, about understanding customer psychology, about building authentic brand connections. She shared case studies from her work, demonstrated successful campaigns, and offered practical advice. The audience was engaged, taking notes, nodding along. But she also got personal, as she always did. 8 years ago, I started my business out of necessity, not choice. I had a newborn baby and no other options. I learned marketing by watching free YouTube videos at 3 in the morning while my daughter slept. I made every mistake you can imagine. But I kept learning, kept improving, and kept refusing to quit. The audience leaned forward, connected not just to the business strategy but to the human story behind it. The biggest lesson I learned is that your circumstances don't define your potential. Your response to those circumstances does. You can let hard times break you, or you can let them forge you into something stronger. I chose the second option. And if you're facing challenges right now, I hope you'll choose it too. The applause when she finished was thunderous. People stood up. Naomi felt tears prick her eyes but blinked them back. She had done it. She had commanded that stage and delivered a message that mattered. Afterward, there was a networking break. Dozens of people approached her, wanting to connect, asking questions, requesting business cards. Naomi smiled and engaged with each person, genuinely interested in their stories and challenges. She was mid-conversation with a potential client when she heard a voice she hadn't heard in years. Naomi? She turned and there he was, Trevor, standing 10 feet away, looking shocked and significantly aged. His hairline had receded. He had gained weight. His suit was decent but not expensive. He looked tired and worn in a way that had nothing to do with age and everything to do with life beating him down. For a moment, Naomi couldn't speak. Seeing him here in this context felt surreal. The last time she had thought about Trevor, really thought about him, had been years ago. He had become irrelevant to her daily life. And now here he was, disrupted her triumph. Trevor, she finally said, her voice neutral. I didn't know you were speaking today. I mean, I saw the name on the program, but I didn't think it was you. Naomi Patterson. You kept your maiden name? I never changed it, Naomi said coolly. What are you doing here? I'm here with my boss. We're looking at marketing services. I work for Grandstone Logistics now. He seemed nervous, unable to meet her eyes for long. Naomi knew Grandstone, a medium-sized logistics company with operations throughout the region. Decent reputation. Not huge but solid. Congratulations on your success, Trevor said, the words sounding forced. I had no idea you had done so well. Last I heard, you were doing some freelance social media work. That was 8 years ago, Trevor. A lot has changed. An awkward silence stretched between them. The other person Naomi had been talking to sensed the tension and quietly excused himself. How's Zara? Trevor asked. She's wonderful. Smart, happy, well-adjusted. No thanks to you. Trevor flinched. That's not fair. I've been involved. You see her once a month at best. You miss her school events. You forgot her birthday last year. That's not involved, Trevor. That's barely present. I have other responsibilities now. 2 other kids. It's complicated. It was complicated when I was raising her alone while you played house with Bianca. But I managed to show up. Every single day. Trevor's jaw tightened. Look, I know I wasn't the best father. I know I messed up. But you can't deny that things worked out well for you. Look at all this. He gestured around the convention center. You're obviously doing great. So maybe me leaving was the best thing that happened to you. Naomi stared at him, genuinely stunned by his audacity. You think you deserve credit for my success? You think abandoning your pregnant wife was somehow a favor? I'm just saying you turned out fine. Better than fine. I turned out successful despite you, Trevor. Not because of you. I built this from nothing while you were off with Bianca, pretending your first family didn't exist. Don't you dare try to take any ownership of what I've accomplished. People were starting to glance their way. Naomi realized she had raised her voice slightly. She took a breath, forcing herself to calm down. Trevor looked around uncomfortably. Can we talk somewhere private? No. We have nothing to discuss that requires privacy. If you want to talk about Zara, you have my number. If you want to talk about anything else, I'm not interested. I just thought, since we ran into each other, maybe we could clear the air. I've wanted to apologize for how things ended. Have you? Because you've had 8 years and multiple opportunities to apologize. You only want to do it now because you ran into me at a business conference and realized I'm not the struggling single mother you abandoned. Trevor's face reddened. You're being really harsh right now. I'm being honest. There's a difference. Naomi checked her watch. I have other people to network with. Have a good day, Trevor. She started to walk away, but Trevor followed her. Wait. Actually, this might be good timing. Grandstone is looking for a marketing agency. My boss is here somewhere. Maybe I could introduce you? It could be good for your business. Naomi turned back to him, one eyebrow raised. Are you seriously trying to help my business right now? After 8 years of minimal child support and maximum neglect. I'm trying to be nice. I thought you'd want the opportunity. What I want is for you to stop acting like we're old friends reconnecting. We're not friends, Trevor. We're barely civil acquaintances connected only by the daughter you largely ignore. She walked away then, not looking back, her heart pounding. The encounter had rattled her more than she wanted to admit. Seeing Trevor, hearing his voice, being reminded of who he was and what he had done, it brought back emotions she thought she had buried. Tasha found her a few minutes later. You okay? I saw you talking to some guy who looked like he was bothering you. That was Trevor. My ex-husband. Oh. Tasha's eyes widened. The one who left you pregnant? That's him. Looking exactly as mediocre as his life choices. What did he want? To pretend we could have a civil conversation. To act like his abandonment wasn't that bad since I turned out successful. The usual narcissist nonsense. Tasha squeezed her shoulder. You handled it well. You walked away with your head high. Naomi nodded, but inside she was shaking. She excused herself and found a quiet hallway, leaning against the wall and taking deep breaths. She had thought she was completely over Trevor. She had thought his presence or absence meant nothing to her anymore. But seeing him had stirred up old pain, old anger, old wounds that she thought had healed completely. Not because she wanted him back. God, no. The thought of being with Trevor again made her feel sick. But because he had hurt her so deeply, and seeing him forced her to remember that pain. Her phone buzzed. A text from one of the conference organizers. We have a logistics company interested in speaking with you about your services. Are you available for a quick meeting? Naomi composed herself, straightened her blazer, and texted back that she would be there in 5 minutes. This was her world now. Her success. Her reputation. Trevor was just a ghost from a past she had transcended. She walked back into the networking area with her head high, ready to discuss business with serious people who respected her expertise. If Trevor saw her talking with potential clients, commanding attention and respect, good. Let him see exactly what he had given up when he chose Bianca over their family. Naomi Patterson was no longer the abandoned pregnant woman crying in a studio apartment. She was a CEO, a keynote speaker, a respected business owner. And nothing Trevor said or did could diminish that truth. But as she smiled and shook hands and discussed marketing strategies, a small part of her mind was already planning. If Grandstone wanted to work with her company, that would be fine. She would treat them like any other potential client, professionally, effectively, and without any personal feelings clouding her judgment. And if that meant occasionally interacting with Trevor in a professional context, she could handle it. She had handled much harder things than dealing with a man who no longer mattered to her life. 2 weeks after the conference, Naomi sat in her office reviewing the proposal her team had prepared for Grandstone Logistics. It was a comprehensive marketing package. Social media management, content creation, website redesign, and a targeted advertising campaign. The kind of mid-size contract that Phoenix Marketing Solutions handled regularly. She had debated whether to pursue the opportunity. Working with Trevor's employer felt complicated. But her CFO had pointed out the obvious. Grandstone was a good company with a real need for their services. Letting personal feelings interfere with a solid business opportunity was poor leadership. So Naomi had instructed her team to treat it like any other proposal. Professional, thorough, competitive pricing. If they got the contract, great. If not, they had plenty of other clients. What she hadn't expected was the email requesting her presence at the pitch meeting. The executive team at Grandstone would like to meet with you personally, her sales manager explained. They were impressed by your keynote at the conference. They specifically asked if you would be presenting. Naomi considered declining. She rarely did pitch presentations anymore. That was what she had a sales team for. But something about this situation intrigued her. Maybe a small, petty part of her wanted Trevor to see her in action. To witness what she had become in the professional world. I'll do it, she told her sales manager. Schedule the meeting. The presentation was set for the following Thursday at Grandstone's headquarters. Naomi prepared thoroughly, reviewing every detail of their proposal, anticipating questions, ensuring she understood Grandstone's business challenges. On the morning of the meeting, she dressed in her best suit, charcoal gray, perfectly tailored, paired with a white blouse and elegant heels. She looked like exactly what she was, a successful business owner who commanded respect. Tasha drove with her to provide support. You're going to crush this, Tasha said as they pulled into Grandstone's parking lot. It's just another pitch, Naomi said, though her heart was beating faster than usual. The reception area was modern and professional. A woman at the front desk directed them to a conference room on the 3rd floor. As they walked through the building, Naomi noticed the typical office environment. Cubicles, closed offices, people moving with purpose. And then she saw him. Trevor, sitting at a desk in an open workspace area, looking at his computer. He glanced up as they passed, and his eyes widened. Naomi kept walking, not acknowledging him, her face neutral. The conference room was spacious with a large table and excellent presentation equipment. 3 executives were already there. The CEO, the VP of Operations, and the marketing director. All of them stood to greet Naomi and Tasha with warm handshakes. Ms. Patterson, thank you so much for coming, the CEO said. I was at your keynote 2 weeks ago. Very impressive presentation. Thank you. I'm glad you found it valuable. We've been struggling with our marketing for years, the marketing director admitted. Tried a few agencies but never found the right fit. Your company's approach seems different. We focus on sustainable, results-driven strategies, Naomi explained. Not flashy campaigns that look good but don't actually increase revenue. Real growth for our clients is our only metric of success. They were settling in to begin the presentation when the door opened. Trevor walked in, looking uncomfortable, carrying a laptop. He took a seat at the far end of the table without making eye contact with anyone. The CEO noticed Naomi's brief pause. Trevor handles some of our marketing coordination. We wanted him here to understand what we're considering. Of course, Naomi said smoothly, though inside she felt a spike of satisfaction. Trevor was going to sit through her presentation. He was going to watch her command this room. He was going to see exactly what he had dismissed 8 years ago. She launched into her presentation with confidence, walking them through Phoenix Marketing Solutions process, showing case studies with measurable results, explaining how they would assess Grandstone's current marketing, identify gaps, and create a strategic plan. Tasha handled the technical aspects, showing website mockups, social media examples, and advertising strategies. Together, they presented a comprehensive vision for elevating Grandstone's market presence. The executives asked intelligent questions. Naomi answered each one with expertise and clarity. She could see them nodding, exchanging impressed looks, leaning forward with interest. Trevor sat at the end of the table, his face unreadable. He hadn't said a single word. I have to say, the CEO finally spoke. This is the most thorough and strategic pitch we've seen. Most agencies just want to sell us services. You're actually analyzing our business and proposing solutions. That's our philosophy, Naomi said. We don't have a one-size-fits-all approach. Every client gets a custom strategy based on their specific needs and goals. And your price point is competitive with other agencies we've considered, but the value proposition is significantly higher, the VP of Operations added. They discussed timeline, deliverables, and expectations. The conversation flowed naturally. Naomi could feel the meeting going well, could sense they were leaning toward hiring Phoenix Marketing Solutions. Finally, the CEO looked at Trevor. You've been quiet. Any thoughts about this proposal? Trevor shifted uncomfortably. It seems comprehensive. I just wonder if a smaller agency can really handle an account of our size. Naomi kept her expression neutral, but internally she recognized what he was doing. Trying to sabotage her. Trying to plant doubt. That's a fair concern, she said calmly. Let me address it. Phoenix Marketing Solutions currently manages 42 active clients, including several that are larger than Grandstone. We have a team of 18 people with specialized expertise. We're not a one-person operation working from a laptop anymore. The emphasis on anymore was subtle but intentional. A reminder to Trevor of where she had started and how far she had come. We have the infrastructure, the experience, and the track record to manage Grandstone effectively, Naomi continued. In fact, mid-sized companies like yours are our specialty. We're big enough to handle complex needs but small enough to give you personalized attention. Large agencies will treat you like a number. We'll treat you like a priority. The CEO nodded appreciatively. That's exactly what we're looking for. They wrapped up the meeting with handshakes and promises to make a decision within the week. As Naomi and Tasha packed up their materials, the marketing director pulled Naomi aside. Off the record, she said quietly, you're our first choice. I just need to get final approval from our board. But I wanted you to know we're very impressed. Thank you. We would love the opportunity to work with Grandstone. Walking back through the building, Naomi spotted Trevor waiting near the elevators. He was clearly trying to intercept her. She considered walking past him but decided to face whatever he wanted to say. That was some presentation, Trevor said as she approached. Thank you. I didn't know you had gotten so professional. So polished. It's impressive. Is there something you need, Trevor? Or are you just making observations? He glanced around to make sure no one was listening. Look, I know things are weird between us. But if Grandstone hires your company, we'll have to work together sometimes. I just want to make sure we can be professional about it. I'm always professional, Naomi said coolly. My personal feelings don't interfere with my work. I hope you can say the same. Of course. He paused. For what it's worth, I am impressed by what you've built. I always knew you were smart, but this is beyond what I expected. What you expected. Trevor, you left me with nothing. You didn't expect anything from me except failure. Don't rewrite history now that you see I succeeded despite you. That's not fair. What's not fair is you trying to undermine my proposal in that meeting. Questioning whether my company can handle the account. You tried to sabotage me. Trevor's face reddened. I was just raising a legitimate concern. No, you were trying to protect your ego. You can't stand seeing me succeed. You can't stand that I'm presenting to your bosses as an equal. Maybe even as a superior, since they're considering hiring me. You're reading too much into it. Am I? Trevor, I know you. I know how your mind works. You want me to fail because my success highlights your mediocrity. The elevator doors opened. Naomi stepped inside and Tasha quickly followed. Have a good day, Trevor, Naomi said as the doors closed, her voice dripping with false politeness. Once they were alone in the elevator, Tasha let out a low whistle. That was intense. He tried to sabotage the pitch, Naomi said, her hands shaking slightly from adrenaline. I noticed, but you shut it down perfectly. Did you see the CEO's face when you addressed his concern? Trevor made himself look insecure and petty. Naomi took a deep breath, forcing herself to calm down. I shouldn't let him get to me. You didn't? You stayed professional and showed him exactly who you are now. That's the best revenge. The drive back to the office was quiet. Naomi stared out the window, processing the morning. Seeing Trevor at the conference had been startling. But this was different. This was potentially having to interact with him regularly if Grandstone became a client. Could she handle it? Could she work with a company that employed her ex-husband without it affecting her judgment or her peace of mind? Yes, she decided. Because she had worked too hard to let Trevor dictate any aspect of her life. If Grandstone hired Phoenix Marketing Solutions, she would deliver excellent work. If that occasionally meant interacting with Trevor, she would handle it with the same professionalism she handled everything else. Back at the office, her team was eager to hear how the pitch went. Naomi gave them an honest assessment. Strong interest, positive feedback, decision expected within the week. Grandstone would be a great addition to our portfolio, her sales manager said. Mid-size company, established reputation, room for growth. Plus, the contract value is substantial. Naomi agreed but didn't mention the Trevor complication. That was personal, and she refused to let personal issues cloud business decisions. 3 days later, the call came. Grandstone wanted to move forward. They were officially hiring Phoenix Marketing Solutions for a 1-year contract with option to extend. The contract was worth $30,000 initially, with potential for additional services. Naomi's team celebrated the win. It was a significant account that would boost their revenue and reputation. She smiled and accepted congratulations, but part of her mind was already anticipating the complications ahead. That evening, she got a text from an unknown number. When she opened it, she realized it was from Trevor using a new phone. I heard we're working with your company. I just want to say I'll stay professional about this. I hope we can both be adults. Naomi stared at the message for a long moment. Then she typed back a response. The account will be managed by my team. You'll be working with them, not me. I'm the CEO. I don't handle day-to-day client interactions unless there's a problem. So you don't need to worry about us working together. His response came quickly. Oh, okay. That's probably better. Yes, it is. She blocked the number and put her phone away. Trevor wanted to feel important, wanted to believe she would be personally involved because of their history. But that's not how her business worked. She had a team precisely so she didn't have to personally manage every client relationship. Grandstone would get excellent service from Phoenix Marketing Solutions. And Trevor would be a minor detail in the background, easily managed by her professionals who had no personal history with him. Naomi realized with satisfaction that she had created a system where Trevor was irrelevant. He couldn't touch her success. He couldn't interfere with her business. He was just another employee at just another client company. For the first time since running into him at the conference, Naomi smiled. This wasn't going to be a problem. This was going to be a reminder, every time Trevor had to interact with her company, of exactly what he had lost when he walked away 8 years ago. 6 months into the Grandstone contract, Naomi received an unusual request for a meeting. The CEO wanted to discuss expanding their services and asked specifically for her to attend. It was the first time she would be back at Grandstone since the initial pitch meeting. She arrived at their offices on a crisp morning, her assistant accompanying her with updated reports and proposals. The receptionist greeted her warmly, clearly aware of who she was and the work her company had been doing. They're very happy with Phoenix Marketing Solutions, the receptionist said while directing her to the executive floor. I've heard nothing but positive feedback. Naomi smiled. Her team had delivered exactly what they promised. Grandstone's social media engagement was up 60%. Website traffic had doubled. Their advertising campaigns were generating qualified leads. The numbers spoke for themselves. The CEO greeted her enthusiastically, shaking her hand with genuine warmth. Naomi, thank you for coming. I wanted to discuss this expansion personally with you. Also present were the VP of Operations and the Marketing Director, the same executives from the original pitch. They spent the next hour discussing additional services, a complete rebrand, expansion into video marketing, and a comprehensive content strategy for their blog and newsletter. What you've done in 6 months is remarkable, the marketing director said. We've seen more growth in our online presence than we had in the previous 3 years combined. My team is excellent, Naomi said. They're dedicated to client success. We've also noticed some gaps in our internal marketing coordination. The CEO paused, choosing his words carefully. We've become aware that some of the information being passed between your team and our internal coordinator hasn't been flowing smoothly. Naomi kept her expression neutral, though she knew exactly who they were talking about. Trevor. Her team had mentioned in passing that he was slow to respond to requests, often provided incomplete information, and sometimes seemed to actively obstruct their work. We've been managing, Naomi said diplomatically. Clear communication is always important in client relationships. The VP of Operations leaned forward. We've been evaluating our marketing department's performance overall. Your company's success has highlighted some deficiencies in our internal operations. We're making some changes. Naomi understood what was happening. They were going to fire Trevor. She could see it in their faces, in the way they were framing the conversation. Grandstone had recognized that Trevor was a weak link, and her company's excellence had made his inadequacy impossible to ignore. A small, vindictive part of her felt satisfaction, but mostly she felt nothing. Trevor's employment wasn't her concern. His performance failures were his own doing. Whatever changes you need to make to improve operations, we'll work with your team, Naomi said professionally. Our goal is to help Grandstone succeed. They finalized the expanded contract, shook hands, and scheduled follow-up meetings. As Naomi was leaving, she passed through the floor where Trevor worked. His desk was empty, his computer monitor dark. 2 days later, her sales manager came to her office looking concerned. We have a situation with Grandstone. Trevor, their marketing coordinator, has been terminated. The new person taking over the account wants to meet with us to understand our process. That's fine. Set up the meeting, Naomi said calmly. There's more. The sales manager hesitated. Trevor called our office. He tried to speak with you directly. When I told him you weren't available, he said some things about our working relationship with Grandstone being inappropriate. Implied there was some kind of conflict of interest because you knew each other. Naomi felt a flash of anger. Of course Trevor would try to create problems. Of course he couldn't accept responsibility for his own failures. What did you tell him? He hung up. Good. If he contacts us again, document everything. I doubt he will though. He's just lashing out because he got fired. That evening, Naomi received an email from Trevor. The subject line read, "We need to talk." She almost deleted it without reading, but curiosity won out. Naomi, I don't know if you had anything to do with me losing my job, but I find the timing suspicious. Your company started working with Grandstone, and suddenly I'm being criticized for performance that was fine before. Then I get terminated. If you used your influence to get me fired, that's seriously messed up. I know we have history, but bringing that into professional situations is wrong. I need this job. I have a family to support. If there's any way you can help me get reinstated or at least give me a good reference, I would appreciate it. Trevor. Naomi read the email twice, her initial anger giving way to something closer to pity. Trevor genuinely believed the world revolved around him. He couldn't fathom that he had been fired for his own poor performance. It had to be someone else's fault. Her fault. She debated not responding. But something made her want to set the record straight, not for Trevor's benefit but for her own peace of mind. She typed carefully. Trevor, I had nothing to do with your termination. I didn't mention you to Grandstone's executives. I didn't suggest they evaluate your performance. I didn't influence their decision in any way. What happened is simple. Your company hired my company to do marketing work. My team delivered excellent results. In the process, they had to interact with you as their internal coordinator. Apparently, you didn't perform that role well. Grandstone made their own assessment and their own decision. You're looking for someone to blame for your failure. I'm not that person. Your job performance is your responsibility. As for helping you get reinstated or providing a reference, the answer is no. I have no professional relationship with you. I owe you nothing. I hope you find employment that better suits your capabilities. But please stop contacting me or my company. Any further communication will be considered harassment. Naomi. She hit send before she could second guess herself. Then she forwarded the entire exchange to her lawyer, just as documentation in case Trevor tried to cause problems. His response came within minutes. Wow, you really have changed. You used to be kind and understanding. Now you're just cold and successful. I guess this is what money does to people. I hope you're proud of yourself. I hope your business success is worth losing your humanity. Naomi read his words and felt nothing but disdain. This was Trevor's pattern. When confronted with his own failures, he attacked the person pointing them out. He made himself the victim and everyone else the villain. She blocked his email address and made a note to tell her receptionist to refuse any calls from him. The new coordinator at Grandstone was efficient and professional. The expanded contract moved forward smoothly. Naomi's team continued delivering excellent results, and Grandstone's marketing presence grew significantly. 2 months later, Naomi was at a business luncheon when someone approached her table. It was one of the executives from Grandstone, the VP of Operations. Naomi, I'm glad I ran into you, he said. I wanted to thank you again for the work your company is doing. The board is thrilled with the results. I'm glad to hear it. My team works hard for every client. I also wanted to mention something. After we made changes to our internal marketing team, we discovered some issues with the previous coordinator's work. Projects that weren't completed, reports that were falsified, budgets that were mismanaged. It was worse than we realized. Naomi nodded but said nothing. I'm telling you this because he apparently tried to blame his termination on your company. Claimed there was some kind of conflict of interest. I wanted you to know that we investigated thoroughly, and his termination was entirely based on documented performance failures that had nothing to do with Phoenix Marketing Solutions. I appreciate you clarifying that, Naomi said, though I never doubted Grandstone's professionalism. Still, I wanted you to hear it directly. Your company's involvement actually helped us identify problems we should have caught earlier. So in a way, we owe you for more than just the marketing success. After he left, Naomi sat with that information. Trevor hadn't just been mediocre at his job. He had been actively bad at it, falsifying reports, mismanaging budgets, creating problems that Grandstone had been dealing with long before Phoenix Marketing Solutions entered the picture. His firing had nothing to do with her. She was just a convenient scapegoat for his own failures. That evening, Naomi was home helping Zara with homework when her daughter asked, Mama, did you see Daddy this week? No, sweetie. Why? He was supposed to pick me up from school yesterday for our visit, but he never came. The school called you instead, remember? Naomi did remember. Another broken promise. Another disappointment for Zara. I remember. Did he explain why? He texted and said he was busy with job stuff. He said he would make it up to me. Zara didn't sound upset, just resigned. She was used to Trevor's unreliability. I'm sorry he missed your time together, Naomi said, hugging her daughter. It's okay. I got to come home and we made cookies instead. That was better anyway. Naomi's heart broke a little. Zara shouldn't have to rationalize her father's absence. She shouldn't have to find silver linings in his broken promises. You know you deserve a dad who shows up, right? Who keeps his promises and makes you a priority. Zara looked up at her with wise eyes that seemed too old for her 10 years. I have you, Mama. You always show up. That's enough. That night, after Zara was asleep, Naomi poured herself a glass of wine and sat on her back porch. She thought about revenge, about justice, about karma. She hadn't actively tried to get Trevor fired, but she hadn't stopped it either. She had built a company that delivered such excellent work that it highlighted his inadequacy by comparison. She had created a standard of professionalism that he couldn't meet. Was that revenge? Maybe. But it was the best kind. The kind where she didn't have to do anything except be excellent at what she did. The kind where Trevor's own failures caused his downfall, not any action she took against him. Naomi had spent years building something meaningful. She had created jobs, helped businesses grow, supported her daughter, and proved that resilience could transform pain into power. That was her revenge. Not hurting Trevor, but succeeding so completely that his abandonment became irrelevant. Trevor had thought leaving her would break her. He had believed she would struggle and fail and eventually come crawling back, grateful for any attention he might give her. Instead, she had built an empire. She had become someone people respected and sought advice from. She had created a life so full of purpose and success that Trevor was just a footnote, a brief chapter in the early pages of a much larger story. The revenge she had chosen wasn't destruction. It was transformation. It was taking everything Trevor thought would destroy her and using it as fuel to become unstoppable. And that, Naomi realized, was the sweetest revenge of all. The ballroom was filled with people dressed in elegant evening wear, all gathered to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Phoenix Marketing Solutions. Naomi stood at the edge of the room, watching her team mingle with clients, partners, and supporters. The event was more elaborate than she had initially wanted, but her operations manager had convinced her that 10 years deserved a proper celebration. You built something remarkable, Tasha had said. Let people celebrate it with you. So Naomi had agreed, and now here she was in a beautiful emerald dress that Zara had helped her pick out, surrounded by people who believed in what she had created. Zara stood beside her, almost as tall as Naomi now at 12 years old. She wore a navy dress and her hair in an elegant updo, looking mature beyond her years. She had been excited about the party for weeks, helping plan decorations and insisting on making a speech. Are you nervous about your speech? Naomi asked her daughter. A little. But Mama, you taught me that doing hard things is how we grow. So I'm ready. Naomi's heart swelled with pride. This confident, articulate, kind young woman was her greatest achievement. Not the business, not the awards, not the financial success. Zara was the true measure of everything Naomi had done right. The evening progressed with dinner, networking, and heartfelt speeches from team members and clients. The marketing director from Grandstone spoke about how Phoenix Marketing Solutions had transformed their business. A small bakery owner who had been one of Naomi's very first clients talked about how her support had saved her business during hard times. Then it was Naomi's turn to speak. She stood at the podium, looking out at the 100-plus people gathered in the ballroom, and felt overwhelmed with gratitude. 10 years ago, she began, I started Phoenix Marketing Solutions out of desperation. I was a single mother with a newborn baby and no money. I didn't have a business plan or investors or even a clear idea of what I was doing. I just knew I had to survive, and I had to provide for my daughter. She paused, gathering her thoughts. I'm standing here tonight as the CEO of a company with 52 employees, annual revenue in the millions, and a reputation for excellence. That transformation still amazes me. But what amazes me more is the journey that got us here. Naomi looked at her team, seated together at tables near the front. I didn't build this alone. Every person on my team contributed to this success. You believed in the vision. You worked hard. You cared about our clients. You made Phoenix Marketing Solutions into something meaningful. She talked about lessons learned, challenges overcome, and dreams for the future. She thanked clients for trusting them with their businesses. She acknowledged the sacrifices required to build something from nothing. Someone once told me that our circumstances don't define us. Our response to those circumstances does. I've tried to live by that principle. When life knocked me down, I chose to get back up. When people doubted me, I chose to prove them wrong. When failure seemed certain, I chose to keep fighting. Her voice grew stronger. To anyone here who is struggling right now, who feels like giving up, who thinks their situation is impossible, I want you to know something. You are stronger than you think. You are capable of more than you imagine. And your current circumstances are not your final destination. The room erupted in applause. Naomi felt tears in her eyes but smiled through them. Then Zara walked up to the podium. Naomi stepped aside, giving her daughter the space to speak. Zara adjusted the microphone and looked out at the crowd with remarkable composure. Hi everyone. I'm Zara, Naomi's daughter. Most of you know my mom as a business owner and CEO. But I know her as the person who never gave up on us. The person who worked 3 jobs so I could have what I needed. The person who studied for college classes after I went to bed and still got up early to make me breakfast. Zara's voice wavered slightly, but she continued. My mom taught me that being strong doesn't mean never being scared. It means doing what needs to be done even when you're scared. She showed me that single mothers aren't broken families. We're just different families. And different can be beautiful. Naomi wiped away tears as her daughter spoke, her heart so full it felt like it might burst. So thank you all for being here tonight, Zara concluded. Thank you for supporting my mom and her company. And thank you for celebrating with us. Because 10 years ago we had nothing. And now we have everything that matters. The applause was thunderous. People were standing, some wiping their own tears. Naomi hugged Zara tightly, whispering, I'm so proud of you, into her daughter's ear. Later in the evening, as the celebration continued, Naomi stepped outside for fresh air. The venue had a terrace overlooking the city, and she stood at the railing watching lights twinkle in the darkness. Quite a night, a voice said behind her. She turned to see her business coach, the woman who had pushed her to think bigger years ago. They had become friends over time, and Naomi had invited her to the celebration. It is, Naomi agreed. Sometimes I still can't believe this is my life. You earned every bit of it. You know that, right? I do. It just feels surreal sometimes. 10 years ago, I was in a studio apartment wondering how I would survive. Now I'm here. And that man who left you? Does he know about tonight? Naomi shrugged. I don't know. I don't care. He's not part of my life anymore. But actually, Trevor did know. Because at that very moment, in a small apartment across town, he sat on a second-hand couch watching the celebration on his phone. Someone had posted videos on social media, tagged Phoenix Marketing Solutions, and Trevor had found them while scrolling. He watched Naomi give her speech, watched her daughter speak with such love and pride, watched the celebration of a success he had never imagined possible. The woman he had mocked for being pregnant, the woman he had abandoned because she wasn't fun anymore, had built an empire. Bianca sat next to him, scrolling through her own phone, their two children fighting in the background over a toy. Their apartment was cramped. Money was always tight. Trevor had been through 4 jobs in the past 3 years, never quite finding his footing, always clashing with bosses or getting passed over for promotions. Is that your ex-wife? Bianca asked, glancing at his screen. Yeah. She looks successful. She is. And that's your daughter? Trevor nodded, unable to speak. Zara looked so much like him, but she carried herself like Naomi. Confident. Well, when's the last time you saw her? Bianca asked. Few months ago. I've been busy. You mean you've been avoiding it? Trevor didn't argue. It was true. Seeing Zara reminded him of everything he had given up, every choice he had made wrong. It was easier to just not show up than to face his daughter's polite distance and Naomi's cold indifference. Do you regret it? Bianca asked quietly. Leaving her? Trevor thought about lying but didn't have the energy. Every single day. On the terrace, Naomi received a notification on her phone. An industry magazine had just published their article naming her Businesswoman of the Year for the region. The article would hit newsstands tomorrow, but they had given her advance notice. She read the headline and felt a wave of satisfaction. Not because she needed external validation, but because it represented how far she had come. From abandoned and broke to recognized and respected. Her phone buzzed again. This time, a text from an unknown number. She almost didn't open it, but something made her look. I saw videos from your celebration. Congratulations on everything you've accomplished. You deserve it. I'm sorry for everything I put you through. I hope you and Zara are happy. Trevor. Naomi stared at the message for a long moment. She thought about responding. Thought about saying thank you or accepting his apology or offering some kind of closure. Instead, she deleted the message and blocked the number. Trevor's apology, 10 years too late, meant nothing. It changed nothing. It was just words from a man who had finally realized what he lost. She went back inside to the celebration, to her team and her friends and her daughter. This was her life now. Full of success and purpose and genuine happiness. She had worked for every bit of it, survived every challenge, and built something that would last. The party continued late into the evening. There was dancing and laughter and heartfelt conversations. Naomi found herself on the dance floor with Zara, both of them laughing as they moved to the music. This is the best night ever, Zara said. It really is, Naomi agreed. As the celebration wound down and guests began leaving, Naomi stood with her core team, looking around at what they had created together. The business had started with her alone, desperate and determined. Now it was something much bigger. A community of people working toward common goals, supporting each other and building something meaningful. To 10 more years, Tasha said, raising her glass. To 10 more years, everyone echoed. Naomi drove home with Zara that night, both of them tired but happy. Her daughter fell asleep in the passenger seat, her head resting against the window. Naomi glanced over at her, this beautiful young woman who had been her motivation through everything. At home, she helped Zara to bed and then stood in her daughter's doorway, watching her sleep like she had done since Zara was a baby. So much had changed. So much had been built from the ruins of that devastating abandonment. Trevor had thought leaving her would be her destruction. He had been catastrophically wrong. His abandonment had been her liberation. It had forced her to find strength she didn't know she had. It had pushed her to build a life entirely on her own terms. It had made her unstoppable. Naomi walked to her own room and changed out of her evening gown. She looked at herself in the mirror and smiled at the reflection. This woman, confident and successful and genuinely happy, was who she had fought to become. She thought about that broken woman in the studio apartment, crying on a second-hand mattress, wondering how she would survive. If she could send a message back to that version of herself, what would she say? You're going to make it. It won't be easy. You'll cry and struggle and doubt yourself 1,000 times. But you're going to make it. And the life you build will be better than anything you lost. Keep going. Keep fighting. Your daughter is watching, and she needs to see that we don't quit when things get hard. Naomi climbed into bed, exhausted but content. Tomorrow she would wake up and continue building. Continue growing. Continue proving that resilience could transform pain into power. Trevor was somewhere in the city, probably regretting his choices, probably wishing he could go back and do things differently. But time only moved forward. Consequences were real. And some mistakes couldn't be undone. Naomi had stopped being angry at him years ago. She had stopped wanting revenge in the traditional sense. Her revenge had been simpler and more powerful. She had lived well. She had succeeded. She had built a life so full of purpose and joy that Trevor's absence was irrelevant. That was the ultimate victory. Not hurting him back. Not making him suffer. But becoming so completely whole without him that his opinion, his regret, his apology meant nothing. As Naomi drifted off to sleep, her last thought was gratitude. Gratitude for the strength she had found. Gratitude for the daughter who had given her purpose. Gratitude for the team who had helped her build something meaningful. And gratitude for the journey that had transformed her from broken to unbreakable. She had earned this life. She had survived the worst and built the best.